kindness, what a wicked little trick. It's like handing someone a blade and trusting them not to plunge it into your chest. But that's the part no one warns you about, isn't it? They don't tell you that the more you give, the easier it becomes for them to twist your generosity into a weapon. And there you are bleeding out, wondering how they looked at your kindness and saw weakness instead of strength. You were kind, so they assumed you were prey. You forgave, so they labeled you a fool. That's how their warped little minds work. They can't fathom the courage it takes to stay gentle in a world built on savagery. They didn't see kindness as a gift, they saw a target, a puppet, a pawn. And you let them play their game, didn't you? Believing foolishly that the world could mirror the goodness you carried within. But it doesn't. It never has. Kindness was never your flaw. It was your power. But they couldn't bear the sight of it. They took that power, twisted it, and tried to wrap it around your neck like a noose. They convinced you that you were broken, too soft for this cold, brutal world. And you believed them. You let their cruelty seep into your story, rewriting it to make you question yourself. You gave pieces of yourself away, thinking it would be enough. But it never was. They drained you, fed on your light like parasites, and left you hollow as shell discarded on the side of their path. And yet, here you are. Broken? Maybe. Beaten? Certainly. But breathing, still here. Here's what they never saw coming. Your kindness wasn't your weakness, it was your choice. A deliberate act of defiance. A conscious decision to rise above the filth they wallow in. That's what terrified them. That's why they needed to break you. To bring you down to their level. Because someone like you, a good person with fire in their soul, is unthinkable in their dark little world. You thought your kindness could reach them, could change them. You thought you could save them. But here's the truth, some people can't be saved. They live in darkness, and your light only reminds them of what they'll never be. They couldn't handle your brightness, so they did what they do best, they tried to snuff it out. But let me tell you something they don't want you to know. It was never your kindness that was the problem. It was their inability to understand it, to accept it. They saw your open hands and knew only how to bite. That's on them, not you. And now you're still standing. After every knife in the back, every whispered lie in the dark, you're still here. And that's what terrifies them most. Because now you see them for what they are, leeches, vultures circling a carcass. Only you're not dead. You're just getting started. They tried to kill the kindness in you, but they didn't realize what kindness really is. It's not letting others trample over you. It's choosing not to crush them when you easily could. It's knowing you have the power to destroy, but choosing to heal instead. And that is strength they will never understand. They'll tell you to harden yourself, to become like them, cold, ruthless, heartless. They'll say it's the only way to survive. But that's a lie. They want you to believe it, to justify their cruelty and wash the blood from their hands. But you know the truth. Kindness isn't weakness. It's power. And now it's yours to wield. You don't need to change who you are. What you need is to see the strength that's been inside you all along. Your kindness, it wasn't a weakness. It was a weapon sharper than any blade they could wield. That's why they feared it. That's why they had to tear you down. Because deep down they knew they could never control someone like you. They knew you weren't like them. And that terrified them. So here's what you do now. You take every scar, every shattered piece of yourself, and you wear it like armor. hide it. Don't let it make you cold or bitter. Let it fuel you. Let it remind you that you survived everything they threw at you, everything that was meant to destroy you. And now you rise. Not as someone who lost their kindness, but as someone who has embraced it fully. Someone who understands that kindness isn't submission. It's standing tall in the face of the darkness and daring to say you couldn't break me. They'll hate you for it. They'll try to tear you down again because people like them can't stand the idea of someone like you existing. But this time you're ready. This time you see them clearly. You know what they are. And this time you won't flinch, you won't bend, and you sure as hell won't break. Because here's the truth, the greatest act of defiance in a world that tried to turn you cold is staying kind. The greatest revenge is refusing to let them corrupt the light inside you. They wanted you broken, but you're not broken. You're reborn. They'll never understand that. To them, kindness is weakness because they've never had the courage to be kind. Cruelty is easy, it takes no guts, no bravery. It's the simplest thing in the world to shut everyone out, to hurt before you get hurt, to turn your back on everything good. But you chose the harder path. You kept your heart open when the world handed you every reason to slam it shut and throw away the key. That's not weakness. That's strength. The kind of strength they'll never understand. The kind that can't be taught or faked. It terrifies them because it's real. They saw your smile, your kindness, and they thought you were easy prey. What they didn't see were the battles you fought in your own head every single day just to keep that smile. They didn't see the sleepless nights where you replayed every betrayal, every harsh word, blaming yourself, wondering what you did wrong. That's what they wanted you to believe, isn't it? That it was your fault. That if you had just been tough or colder, maybe they wouldn't have hurt you. But here's the truth, it was never your fault. It was always theirs. The fault lies with those who couldn't comprehend that kindness isn't something to exploit. It's something to cherish, to protect. They saw you as a fool. But they were the real fools. Because while they were busy tearing you down, they were unknowingly building something inside you, shaping you into someone they could never be. Someone who's been through hell but still chooses to see the good in people. Someone who's been shattered but still stands tall. They wanted you to be like them, hardened, bitter, filled with hate. They wanted your heart to turn to stone so they could justify their own emptiness. But you didn't give them that satisfaction. You didn't let them turn you into a monster. No, you became something far more dangerous. Not a monster that destroys everything in its path. You became the kind that can stare into the abyss and still find a way back. The kind that wears scars not as wounds, but as proof of survival. They'll never have that kind of strength. They crumble the moment life gets hard, hiding behind masks and pretending to be untouchable. But you faced every storm, and here you are still standing. You were kind because you believed in people, because you saw the good, even when it was buried deep beneath the surface. But now you know better. You see the world for what it is. You see people for who they are. You're no longer fooled. You're awake, and that terrifies them more than anything. They wanted you numb, emotionless, because that's the only way they survive. They can't feel anything, so they don't understand the fire that burns inside someone who does, the rage that comes from betrayal, the unrelenting power of someone who refuses to let their heart be extinguished. Now you do. Now you know exactly what you're capable of. And it's not about revenge. It's not about becoming like them. It's about knowing you could destroy them but choosing not to. It's about looking them in the eye, smiling, and knowing they couldn't touch the best parts of you. even when they tried with everything they had. Sure, you could become just as cold, just as ruthless. But what would that prove? That they were right? That you were weak all along? No, you're stronger than that, stronger than any of them could ever comprehend. While they were busy tearing others down, you were building yourself up, taking every insult, every betrayal, and turning it into fuel. And now you're unstoppable. And now you're unstoppable. They think you're still the same person, the one they could manipulate, the one they could hurt without consequence. But you're not. You've changed. You've adapted. You've grown. Your kindness is still there, but now it's sharp, honed like a blade. It's no longer a weakness they can exploit. It's a weapon you wield with precision, cutting through their lies, their games, their poison. They'll come back, they always do. They'll slither their way into your life with their apologies, their excuses, their empty words, thinking they can pull you back down. They never expected you to rise. They thought you'd stay broken, stay defeated. But now, when they look at you, when they see the fire burning in your eyes, they won't know what to do. That's your power now. You choose who gets your time, your energy, your kindness. You decide who stays and who gets shut out. They don't control you anymore. They don't dictate your story. This is your life and you've taken the pen back. You're writing the next chapter, and it's not a tragedy. It's a tale of survival, of strength, of someone who refused to let the darkness consume them. They'll never understand your story. They've never had to fight like you have. So what's next for you? Do you let their actions turn you into something you're not? Do you close your heart and become like them, bitter, empty, afraid? Or do you take every ounce of their cruelty, every blow they tried to land, and use it to rise higher than ever before? I think you already know the answer. You've always known. They treated your kindness like a weakness. They mistook your softness for fragility. But now they'll see it for what it truly is, a weapon, a shield, a force they can't touch. And that's the beauty of it. You're still kind, still good, but you're not the same. You've evolved. You've become everything they feared you could be. So go ahead. Show them. Show them what happens when you push a good person too far. They thought they had you figured out, a kind heart, easy prey, someone who forgives too easily. They thought you'd be the perfect victim. But the truth, they never saw you. Not really. They only saw what they wanted to see, a reflection of their own insecurities, a punching bag for their brokenness. But here you are, still standing, still breathing. You've taken every hit, every betrayal, every lie, and absorbed it like poison. And instead of killing you, it made you immune. It made you stronger. It made you dangerous. Now you see them for what they are. Cowards hiding behind cruelty, pretending it's strength. They thought they could break you, but all they did was reveal their own weakness. True strength, it's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how many hits you can take and still rise. It's about staring the devil in the eye and saying, is that all you've got? Look at you now. They threw everything at you. And here you are, still standing tall. They wanted to turn you bitter, to leave you broken, but all they did was give clarity. They thought your kindness was a flaw, but it was your greatest weapon all along. It's what kept you going when everyone else gave up. It's what made you stronger, not weaker. Kindness isn't about letting people walk all over you. It's about standing up and saying enough. It's about knowing your worth and refusing to settle for less. It's about looking at the ones who tried to tear you down and saying, you don't get to define who I am. I do. They thought they could control you, shape you into something small, something broken. But they underestimated you. Every time they pushed you down, you learned. You grew. You became something more. And now you're a force they can't even begin to comprehend. You've got a fire inside you now, an unbreakable will, and it terrifies them. They know they can't manipulate you anymore. They know they can't use your kindness against you. You've turned their biggest weapon into your greatest strength. They don't know what to do with someone like you, someone who's been hurt but refuses to become hateful. Someone who's been betrayed but still chooses to trust. Someone who's been broken but used the pieces to build something even stronger. They've never met anyone like you. They're used to people who crumble, who give up, who let the weight of pain crush them. They're used to people who become just as cruel, just as heartless, because that's the only way they know how to survive. But you're something else entirely. You took everything they threw at you and turned it into fuel. You turned it into power. And now they look at you and realize they've created their own worst nightmare. They tried to destroy you, but instead, they forged you into something unbreakable. They wanted you weak, but they made you strong. They wanted you silent, but now your voice is louder than ever. That voice is the sound of every lie they ever told you being shattered. It's the sound of every doubt they planted in your mind being ripped out by the roots. It's the sound of someone who's finally realized they're worth their power. You thought you were alone in this, didn't you? Betrayed, discarded, like your kindness was a curse instead of a gift. But you're not alone. There are others just like you, others who've been burned by the people they trusted most. They need someone like you. When you rise, you give them permission to rise too. When you stand tall and say, "You didn't break me," you give them hope. You show them it's okay to be kind in a world that tries to tear you apart for it. You show them that it's not kindness that needs to change, it's the world. They'll hate you for it. They'll resent you for being everything they can't. They'll try to pull you back down, convince you that you're still weak, still naive. But you know better now. The real strength was inside you all along. So what do you do now? You keep going. You keep being kind. But this time you do it with your eyes wide open. This time you know who deserves your kindness and who doesn't. You don't close off your heart, you protect it. You don't let their poison change you, but you learn how to guard against it. Because the lesson isn't to become like them. It's to stay true to yourself, even when the world tries to make you forget who you are. They wanted you broken. They failed. They thought they could turn your kindness into a curse, but you turned it into your armor. They thought they could make you like them, but instead you became something they'll never touch. You became unstoppable. You don't shut your heart off, you guard it. You don't let them change who you are, you learn to protect yourself from their poison. That's the lesson, isn't it? It's not about becoming like them. It's about staying true to yourself, even when the world does everything in its power to make you forget who you are. They wanted to break you. They failed. They wanted to turn your kindness into a curse. Instead, you turned it into armor. They wanted to make you one of them, but instead you became something they can never touch. You became unbreakable. So let them see what they've created. Let them witness the aftermath of their attempts to tear you down. They tried to make you a monster, but what they got instead is far more dangerous. You're a good person who's been to hell and back, and you kept fighting anyway. And there's nothing in this world more terrifying than that. Let them watch you now. Let them see you standing tall, every scar, every wound, every broken piece of your heart stitched together with the strength they could never understand. You've turned their hate into fuel. You've turned their betrayal into wisdom. And now you move forward unafraid because you finally know exactly who you are. And that, my friend, is their worst nightmare. You thought they'd appreciate your kindness, didn't you? You thought if you just kept giving, just kept loving, it would be enough to change them. But people like that don't change. They don't see your kindness as a gift. They see it as an opportunity, a chance to drain you dry, to bleed you until there's nothing left. They took your trust, your vulnerability, and twisted it into a knife. And the worst part, they laughed while they did it. They reveled in your pain, feeding on your light like parasites, believing it made them strong, believing it made them untouchable. But here's what they didn't realize: they weren't draining you. They were sharpening you. Every ounce of pain they inflicted became a weapon. Every betrayal became a shield. Now you stand here, forged in the fire they lit to burn you. They never saw it coming. They expected you to crawl, to beg, to remain broken. But here's the truth: you were never broken. Bent, maybe. Cracked, definitely. But broken. Never. They underestimated what happens when someone hits rock bottom and decides to claw their way out with bloody bare hands. You learned something down there, didn't you? In the darkness, when you were all alone, you realized something they'll never understand. You realize that the only person you can truly rely on is yourself. You realize that kindness isn't about being a doormat. It's about having the strength to choose not to become like them. You didn't turn cold. No, you became something far worse for them. You became resilient. You became unbreakable. You're the kind of person who can stare into the ugliest parts of humanity and still choose to keep your heart open. They hate that about you. They despise it. Because you remind them of everything they're not, everything they could never be. Your strength makes them feel small. Their cruelty was never power, it was just fear wrapped in disguise. But now you see it clearly. You see their games for what they are. They feed on people like you because they're empty inside. They're hollow, desperately trying to fill their void by consuming the light of others. But it never works, does it? They're left just as hollow as before. Only now they have blood on their hands. And you wear your scars not as marks of shame, but as proof. Proof that you survived what was meant to destroy you. Proof of every battle you fought and won, even if winning meant nothing more than getting back up off the floor. You've been to hell and back. And yet, they still think they can scare you. They still think they can control you. But they're fools. You've already faced the worst they had to offer, and you walked out the other side. You didn't just survive, you thrived. Look at you now. They don't even recognize the person standing before them. The softness they once mocked is still there, but now it's tempered like steel. It's the kind of kindness that doesn't flinch, doesn't flinch, doesn't bend, and doesn't play their games. It's the kind of kindness that looks them in the eye and says, I know what you are, and you don't scare me anymore. They laughed at you once, whispered behind your back, calling you weak. They smirked and said you were too nice for your own good. They thought they had you figured out. But now, they see you standing with fire in your eyes and scars on your heart. And the laughter dies in their throats. They tried to bury you, not realizing you were a seed. They tried to tear you apart, not realizing they were only making you stronger. Now they have to watch you rise. They have to watch you become everything they'll never be. But don't mistake this for forgiveness. What they did is not forgotten. You don't have to carry anger, but you don't have to let go of the lesson either. Let it fuel you. Let it remind you to rise above, to become everything they can't stand. Strong, kind, unbreakable. They thought kindness was your weakness, but kindness was your choice. That's what makes it powerful. It was never theirs to take, it was yours all along. So now you live with that kindness, but with an edge. You live knowing you're not the person you once were, and that's a good thing. You're smarter now, wiser. You've learned the difference between those who deserve your love and those who only want to use it. You don't need to become cold. You don't need to shut down. You just need to be careful. Be aware. Be the kind of person who smiles, even in the face of betrayal, because you know it doesn't define you. It defines them. And that's their punishment, isn't it? The real justice. They get to live with what they've done while you walk forward unburdened. You're free in a way they'll never be. They're trapped in their own misery, their own emptiness. But you've got a future. You've got a fire inside you they'll never extinguish. They tried to turn your gift into a curse. Instead, you made it your greatest strength. So go on. Live boldly. Love fiercely. Be kind not because the world deserves it, but because you do. You deserve to live without the chains they tried to bind you with. You deserve to be free, to be happy, to be exactly who you are without apology. Because in the end, the greatest revenge is living well. And the greatest victory is being everything they said you couldn't be. And you, my friend, you're already winning.